Now, I want to talk to you here seriously for a moment. Let me be clear. There's only one way to cultivate that sense of revolutionary obligation that we so crave in your own heart. And that's to like this video and to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to smash that like button. Smash that don't like button to forget. Don't like smash? Button to forget that. Like to forget that button? Don't smash. Don't like the button? Forget that smash. Forget to like that don't smash button.
Well, comrades, to the art of cinema. This is a mandatory re-education session of the People's Republic of F. Let us hasten final victory through a revolutionary ideological offensive. We're monitoring your viewing, and we know if you're not watching. I am Colonel T, Minister of Propaganda, and with me, as always, is our glorious leader, General Secretary F, the eternal leader of our revolution, the mastermind of the revolution.
Your deference before my glorious person is acceptable, Colonel T. It befits me, the eternal General Secretary of the party, the respected, wise, brilliant, and incomparable leader of the revolution. Let us counter arms with arms. Let us thwart counter-revolutionary aggression by means of revolutionary violence.
Yes, sir. Ever let it be so. Today's 90s film, the 90s film by the analysis of which we shall further instill revolutionary consciousness in the citizens of the PRF, is called The English Patient. Who is the English patient? The English patient is Ralph Fiennes, and we call Ralph Fiennes the English patient, despite the fact that he's actually an Hungarian count named Laszlo de Almasi.
The English patient is really Hungarian? No. Nice try, imperialist screenwriters. If he's Ralph Fiennes, then he's English. And that's relevant for us, because the social class we call the workers originated in England in the 1700s during the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah. So the Industrial Revolution was then repeated in all other developed countries of the world. So it follows that if this Ralph Fiennes character were to liberate the workers of England, he would ignite the revolution in all other countries as a result. You know what I mean?
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sooner or later, these revolutions shall effectuate the liberation of the working classes in each respective nation.
Each respective nation.
Each one. The revolution, once ignited, shall engulf the world like wildfire until the last vestige of capitalism has been purged from the hearts of men, and those imperialists who remain flee deep into the forests to hide amidst the mountains so as to escape the instrument of my indignation, lest I destroy them.
May you destroy the imperialists to the last man, sir. Ralph Fiennes' name is pronounced Rafe, even though it's spelled Ralph. So if that's good English, then in football, you should be able to score a safety, S-A-L-P-H-T-Y. This is all extremely stupid, sir. I'd say our language needs a glorious revolution. Also, remember in our last movie how Stalin was in that Grand Budapest Hotel movie?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Ralph Fiennes was in Grand Budapest Hotel as well.
Oh, no kidding.
He was the main character. He's the chief concierge at a luxury hotel, and he works tirelessly, catering to the desires of the aristocracy and the bourgeoisie there.
It's just as I would have predicted. You see, human history is nothing more than the history of class struggles. The story of human history is that of the opposition of the exploiting and exploited classes, of oppressors and the oppressed. You know all this. And it doesn't sound like there's a lot of emancipation of the exploited class happening in The English Patient or at this Grand Budapest Hotel either. Frankly, I'm starting to doubt Ralph Fiennes' revolutionary mettle. But one movie at a time. Let's see if there's any emancipation in store for the workers in The English Patient.
We shall see, sir. The English Patient is two movies in one, in a sense. There's the before story and the after story. In the after story, the English patient has been badly burned in a plane crash and he's dying. This part of the story takes place in Italy at a bombed-out monastery at the end of the Second World War. Juliette Binoche is a young nurse who takes care of the English patient during his hospice, in effect. For most of this part of the story, the English patient has amnesia, or at least that's what he says. He can remember lots of trivia about the world. In fact, he seems to know just about everything. But he doesn't know who he is or how he ended up as the English patient. But we, the audience, can see that he's Ralph Fiennes with burn scars all over him. Ralph Fiennes is very excited about his copy of Herodotus, and he tells Juliette Binoche that Herodotus is the father of history.
Yeah, Pythagoras is the father of triangles, I think.
Yeah, he had his theorem, father of a theorem.
Yeah.
And I believe Icarus is the father of atrocitarianism.
That's right. Interesting story about Icarus, though. He saw the imperialism off in the distance like a burning sun, and he's like a moth, and so he just went right to it.
Drawn to the flame.
And ultimately it was imperialism that burned him, burned off his wingtips. It was really something else.
That's why Icarus not a member of the party here in the PRF.
No, in fact, we don't normally say his name, but I just made an executive decision to go ahead and put his name out there.
Who were we talking about?
Icarus, yeah.
I've not heard of...
That's the right answer. But let this mysterious person serve as a warning to anyone else who might be attracted by the burning hot fire sun of imperialism.
Well, we don't give the people many warnings, so that's well received.
Yeah. Well, our people are well enough behaved. They don't really need warnings. They kind of know what to do. They're all right.
Juliette Binoche wonders what the English patient's deal is, and during the latter part of the story, she starts to learn his story along with us, the audience. So let's explain to the PRF workers and soldiers what led Ralph Fiennes into this sad situation as a dying burn victim in Italy at the end of the Second World War. In the earlier part of the story, Ralph Fiennes is an Hungarian cartographer working in Egypt just before the Second World War. He's Hungarian nobility, a count, and he's extremely highly educated, as noblemen in the feudal system often were, sir.
Now this is ironic. This is something of a paradox, as it were. On the one hand, it's true, the Egyptian workers aren't going to emancipate themselves from the chains by which the rich bind them.
That's true.
Ralph Fiennes will have to prosecute the glorious revolution on their behalf. Ralph Fiennes must become the highest incarnation of revolutionary Egyptian comradeship, even though he's not Egyptian.
No.
But on the other hand, this is the British Empire of the late 1930s.
Right.
Ralph Fiennes is no revolutionary. He's a Hungarian monarchist and imperialist.
So not only will Ralph Fiennes have to become the glorious leader of the Egyptians despite being British, he must also establish the atrocitarian utopia there despite being an imperialist?
Yeah, and why don't they just have the Bengals do it? I mean, at least they know how to walk like an Egyptian.
They could
But
show
anyway.
Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah, but there may be a silver lining here, Colonel. Of course, it's true that imperialism is the most debased, prostitute form of state power by which the bourgeoisie enslave labor by means of capital.
Right.
But it's also true that imperialism is the means by which the bourgeoisie emancipates itself from feudalism. So with imperialism, there is, as yet, no liberation for the workers. But nevertheless, imperial society rises out of the ashes of feudalism, so the bourgeois imperialist can vaguely imagine a republic that does away with the class rule itself, and not merely the monarchical form of class rule.
So, essentially, if Ralph Fiennes' imperialism is the first step along the path to atrocitarianism, if it's one stage in a process of revolution that abolishes feudalism and progresses to General Secretary F's world domination, then we can actually hold out hope for Ralph Fiennes, the British imperialist revolutionary, in this film.
Yeah, I'd say it's conceivable, but let me be clear. I don't have much confidence in Ralph Fiennes' ability to emancipate the Egyptian workers here, but at least in theory it's possible.
A British couple, Colin Firth and Kristen Scott Thomas, arrive at the cartography installation in the Sahara Desert where Ralph Fiennes is working. They have their own airplane, and they offer to help the cartographers with aerial photography. All the cartographers are pilots, and they have World War I-era biplanes to get themselves deep into the Egyptian desert. So then, Rafe Fiennes and Kristen Scott Thomas start having an affair behind Colin Firth's back. This seems to be some Rafe Fiennes typecasting, sir. Rafe Fiennes has lots of affairs in his movies.
Like in Harry Potter?
No, sir, I don't believe Voldemort has an affair, but in the end of the affair, Rafe Fiennes has an affair with Julianne Moore, even though she's married to Stephen Rea. Also, he's in this movie called A Bigger Splash, where he tries to get it on with Tilda Swinton, even though she's with Matthias Schoenaerts, and when she refuses him, Rafe Fiennes gets it on with Matthias Schoenaerts to get back at Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, that'll show Tilda Swinton.
But the affair between Rafe and Kristen is most of what the film is about. Or more specifically, it's about how Rafe and Kristen's affair destroys the lives of everyone around them. Everyone ends up dead or maimed so that Rafe Fiennes and Kristen Scott Thomas can get it on. They think they're too smart for Colin Firth, but Colin Firth seems to be aware of their betrayal more or less from the start. Eventually, when Colin Firth and Kristen Scott Thomas are flying back in to land at the cartography camp, Colin Firth tries to crash the plane into Rafe Fiennes on the ground in an attempt to kill all three of them. Colin Firth dies in the crash. Kristen Scott Thomas is badly injured, but Rafe Fiennes manages to jump out of the way of the plane and isn't hurt. So he puts Kristen Scott Thomas up in a cave and tells her he'll be back with a doctor in a few days. But when he gets to an English military installation, he has no papers, and they suspect him of being a German spy trying to defect. So the English soldiers arrest Rafe Fiennes and put him on a train to somewhere he can be interrogated. But Rafe Fiennes escapes from the train, finds some German soldiers, and trades them the maps he has of British military occupation in the area in exchange for a plane and gas he can use to go retrieve Kristen Scott Thomas's body from the cave where he left her. When Rafe Fiennes' friend Julian Wadham learns that Fiennes has betrayed the British army to the Germans, he kills himself because he thinks Fiennes was really a German spy all along. So everyone is dead except for Rafe Fiennes now. Then, as Fiennes is trying to fly out of the Sahara with Kristen Scott Thomas's body, trying to get to England to bury her in the garden at her home there, the Germans shoot the plane down. Rafe Fiennes survives, but he's badly burned, so at last we've set up the latter part of the story.
Behold, the revolutionary falls 7 times and rises again, but the imperialist stumbles in times of calamity. Rafe Fiennes' revolution here is an absolute farce. Look, I'm sure that Kristen Scott Thomas is very attractive. I'm sure she caused Rafe Fiennes to experience all manner of strong emotions. But the revolutionary must maintain a calm demeanor in the face of these emotions.
Yes, sir.
He must remain unaffected, undistracted from the arduous struggle of the revolution. If Rafe Fiennes can be led astray by the first pretty girl to show up at his cartography camp and bat her eyes at him, how will he remain resolute when the capitalists seek to seduce his people away from the path of revolution with their popular music and their fast food restaurants?
How indeed, sir. In the latter part of the story, where Rafe Fiennes is in hospice in Italy, Juliette Binoche taking care of him, we meet Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is missing his thumbs, and he thinks it might be Rafe Fiennes' fault. Willem Dafoe was a Canadian intelligence officer stationed in Egypt before and during the war. When the Germans occupied Egypt, they somehow had information about who the Allied spies in the area were. So a German intelligence officer arrests Willem Dafoe and interrogates him, and when Dafoe won't cooperate, he has his thumbs cut off. Willem Dafoe doesn't like having his thumbs cut off, so off-screen, after his scenes with the Germans in Egypt but before he shows up at the Italian monastery, he finds and kills the German intelligence officer who maimed him and the German spy who had him arrested. Willem Dafoe is still looking for the man who gave the Germans the maps and photos they used to identify him, so this means Willem Dafoe is very likely trying to find Rafe Fiennes so he can kill him too. So Willem Dafoe keeps asking Rafe Fiennes for more and more information about his story. Eventually, it gets to the point of being an interrogation. But once Willem Dafoe has heard the story of Rafe Fiennes' affair, and how all Fiennes' friends ended up dead, he decides that even if Rafe Fiennes was the guy who turned his identity over to the Germans, He can't kill him after all he's been through.
He can't kill him? Well, it doesn't sound like Willem Dafoe is cut out for the job of secret police, does it?
No, it doesn't, sir. The other major plot point at the Italian monastery is that Juliette Binoche, the young nurse who takes care of the English patient, has an affair with Naveen Andrews. Naveen Andrews is a Sikh from British India, and he's working for the British Army as a demolition expert. He disarms German landmines and other explosives.
So in the earlier part of the story, Rafe finds the British imperialist gets the girl. But in the latter part, Naveen Andrews, the Sikh, gets the girl, while Rafe Fiennes lays scarred and dying in a bombed-out Italian monastery. This is a good metaphor for the death of British imperialism as the atrocitarian revolution continues to progress throughout history.
I see.
In the People's Republic of F, with our skilled and efficient military command system installed throughout the country, we have equipped ourselves with political, military, and ideological implements that allow us to vanquish the imperialist aggressors wherever and whenever they attack us. The PRF soldier shall rout the imperialist on the ground, he shall crush him in the air, and he shall annihilate him at sea.
Glory to the revolution, sir. In the end, once the war is over, and it's time for everyone to go home, Rafe Fiennes asks Juliette Binoche to give him a fatal dose of morphine and let him die. He has nothing left to live for. Rafe Fiennes, the British imperialist, has been vanquished indeed. I have just a few more thoughts on the film, sir. More musings, as it were, more postulations, if I may.
More hypotheses, so to speak, more contentions, if you will, more assertions, if I may.
Rafe Fiennes, Kristen Scott Thomas, and Juliette Binoche in this film are three of the skinniest people I've ever seen. Movie stars tend to look gaunt and malnourished in real life, but then on camera it looks all right. But these movie stars look underweight on camera.
You know, it reminds me of the March of Arduous Suffering, when the citizens of the PRF lost quite a bit of weight. It was all because the American capitalist imperialist aggressors imposed sanctions and blockades upon the noble, enlightened, and peace-loving revolutionaries of our glorious nation.
Indeed, sir.
And then, adding insult to injury, the Americans claimed that the PRF was starving because our system of agriculture was dysfunctional.
Nonsense.
Yeah, it was the usual imperialist nonsense about how the PRF isn't real atrocitarianism, how our glorious leader can't actually deliver the people to utopia by way of atrocity, blah, blah, blah. But you see, the capitalist imperialists deceptively slandered the atrocitarian PRF, talking about one-party dictatorship or the despotism of General Secretary F. This is nothing but weaponized propaganda.
Right.
It seeks to varnish, to embellish, to bespangle the multi-party system in capitalist America, while at the same time undermining the atrocitarian People's Republic of F from within. But the mighty PRF armies quickly put an end to the American blockades, and our Ministry of Agriculture was able to resume supply of nutritious soybean paste and boiled potatoes to the people in just 2 or 3 years' time.
Excellent.
The PRF fervently defends atrocitarianism against imperialist aggression by preparing the people politico-ideologically and by preparing our service personnel in military aptitude. The victorious PRF armies develop military hardware such as weapons and various combat and technical expediencies, and I, your glorious leader, General Secretary F., see that this hardware is continually upgraded as the demands of modern warfare require.
Yes, sir. Hail our victorious iron-willed commander. There's a scene where Kristen Scott Thomas has broken up with Rafe Fiennes so she can keep being married to Colin Firth. But then Rafe Fiennes gets drunk and makes a scene at a dinner party. I like this scene because when well-educated Englishmen get drunk and cuss you out, they don't cuss. They become more eloquent.
And the people here don't want us. You must be joking. The Egyptians are desperate to get rid of the colonials. Isn't that right? Fuad? Some of their best people getting down on their hands and knees begging to be spared a knighthood. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, Sir Ronnie?
When an Italian-American mafia boss cusses someone out, he just cusses someone out. But when the English nobleman cusses someone out, it sounds like Shakespeare.
The little boy, you were holding his collar, you were gripping his collar. What for? Is he next? You're going to drag him into your little room. Where is it? Is this it? I've watched you at garden parties, on verandas, at the races. How can you stand there? How can you? ever smile as if your life had capsized?
You know what I always say. Cuss someone out softly and carry a big implement of indignation.
Well, of course I knew that, sir. Finally, sir, at one point in the film, Ralph Fiennes offers the idea that in the colonies, in the British Empire, the idea really wasn't about different countries and peoples and borders. They were striving for something beyond all that. They were striving for the progress of society, and people at that time believed in civilization, furthering civilization, and Ralph Fiennes' claim is that both the British of the British Empire and the other peoples under their hegemony all together were striving together for something beyond, as I say, different countries, different peoples, borders, striving for the progress of civilization. However, when Ralph Fiennes and Kristen Scott Thomas begin their affair, one of the conversations they have, Kristen Scott Thomas asks Ralph Fiennes what he fears or what he hates, something like that, and he says ownership. He hates the idea of being owned by someone or of owning somebody else. However, once the affair has run its course and she's gone back to Colin Firth, he then refers to Kristen Scott Thomas as his property, I believe betraying his true imperialist intent, sir.
Yeah, that's true. Bourgeois private property represents our collapse into a system based on class enmity, on the oppression of the many by the few. So the cornerstone of the capitalist imperialist system is the enslavement of the workers by the bourgeoisie. You see, post-feudalists forget that they exploited the workers as well, but under different circumstances and conditions. Circumstances and conditions that are now antiquated. This fraudulent history reveals to us that the modern proletariat did not exist in their feudal systems. Indeed, as the bourgeoisie emerged from the ruins of feudalism, they themselves begat the proletarian class. So the Americans forget that the bourgeoisie of today is the inevitable outcome of capitalist imperialist society as it progressed out of feudalism.
Yes, sir. Yes, and clearly, that's what the English patient is all about. Once again you have enlightened us. We take our leave edified with greater wisdom than at the outset. You have empowered us, sir, to forge ahead upon the road of revolution. This has been the Art of Cinema with our glorious leader, General Secretary F. Let us maintain vigilance against the ever-looming threat of an American invasion. You are required to report any non-participation or dissent amongst your comrades. Don't forget to tune in to the Art of Cinema again next time for further discussion of films from the 1990s in your next mandatory re-education session.